There is a journalist in the United States, Farid Zakaria. Judging by his surname, one might think at first that he is Mingrelian, but no, he is Indian. From India, that is. Zakaria is one of the most famous and influential journalists in the United States. He works for CNN. Recently, he took apart Carlson's report from the Moscow subway in which he tried to prove that cleanliness and order is bad. But the dirt of New York is just the latest fashion. You don't understand anything. It's a sign of civilization. Zakaria reminded that Carlson also admired the subways of Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Singapore, and Tokyo, and yet the Moscow subway is a head above in terms of the beauty of the stations. Dubai's subway is faceless. All stations are plus or minus the same. In Moscow, every station is a separate museum, and from Farid Zakaria's point of view, this is a bad thing. A little further on, I will give his argument why New York's dirt is something to be proud of. But first, a quote from him. American conservatives are increasingly blinded by the purity and order of dictatorships, populist authoritarian regimes, and absolute monarchies. Tucker Carlson is indeed an American conservative. That is, he wants to preserve all the best traditions of society that still exist. Well, for example, conservatives like normal families without LGBT, a normal industrial economy without the green agenda, a strong, self-sufficient military, and strong borders. To be a conservative from the perspective of American Democrats is simply sinful. CNN is a democratic media outlet, so they label it as an insult. Further, based on the quote, Zakaria claims that the order and cleanliness that reigns in the countries described is just dust in the eyes, a kind of propaganda element. For example, the luxurious Moscow subway, according to Zakaria, was built by Joseph Stalin with huge state money to demonstrate the superiority of Soviet communism. I mean, get it? Stalin didn't think about Soviet people just living comfortably. He was all about blurring the eyes of foreigners. I'm also curious, what did he mean by huge amounts of state money? Building any subway is very expensive. Or did he mean that much more was spent on that construction than could have been spent? So there was corruption. With whom? But under Stalin, the existence of kickbacks and budget cuts is the least believable. Everything that was built in those years, on the contrary, was built as cheaply as possible. People worked largely on enthusiasm, not for big salaries. But even so, what does this have to do with Stalin? He died 70 years ago. Since then, many new stations have been built, and a huge number of them under capitalism. And Tucker's admiration was not about the size and dimensions of the station, which could only have survived from Stalin's times if the station had not been monitored. Tucker admires the way the station is taken care of, how order is maintained, how smoothly everything works, how safe it is. This is the daily work of thousands of people, huge money, the most complex organization. All of this is the merit of modern Russia and Russians, not just Stalin alone. It is clear that Zakaria wanted to somehow belittle the achievements of the Moscow, Emirates, and Tokyo subways. So he did not think of anything better than to say that all this is a product of authoritarian regimes, monarchies, and conformist culture. Well, it is clear with Moscow. According to American propaganda, it belongs to authoritarian and even totalitarian regimes. Abu Dhabi and Dubai are absolute monarchies, and everything is clear there too. But how could Tokyo be humiliated? After all, there is democracy, capitalism, human rights, and no Stalin there. How can their success be explained? Conformism, simply put, is the desire to bend to someone, spinelessness, adaptability. Japan can be called a conformist culture because they've been in the U.S. for a long time. But I still don't understand what this has to do with the subway. Where is the logic? And why does the American propaganda speak so badly about the friends and allies of the USA? Why is dirt on the NYC subway cool? And now the crowning argument from Zakaria. In his view, the filth of New York City is proof of true democracy. After all, it's a place where people have to overcome differences and find ways to live together. This makes not only New York City, but American cities in general more messy, dirty, and sometimes chaotic. But it is what has made U.S. cities so vibrant and innovative, and it is why they have been at the forefront of making the United States a country that leads the world in economy, technology, culture, and energy. Did you get any of that? I don't. I think all he could get out of his mouth was something like, yeah, we're dirty and homeless, But we can fly into space, and we made Avatar. But just how exactly does a dirty subway allow the U.S. to be at the forefront of the economy and culture? What's the connection? I don't get it. Here's dollar printing. I can see how it puts them at the forefront of the economy. Many hundreds of military bases around the world, I get it. Pouring money into Hollywood, which blows the brains of the entire planet, I get that too. But this poor rat, forced to think hourly about his daily bread in the cold subway, how did he help the U.S. to make the biggest fortune in history? Russians, the next time you descend into a clean and beautiful subway, do not hurry to rejoice. On the contrary, remember, all this is just dust in your eyes. You are not allowed to overcome your differences and find ways to live together. And in the end, it is precisely because of these disgusting clean aprons that it is so bad to live in Russia.